Hello, my name is Manu from Exploding Shed. Welcome to our live stream. Today we do a Synth DIY workshop about the Transient Modules for R. It's a random module. And today I'm here with Ronnie. Where is he? Yep. Hello. Ronnie is operating the stream. And Andreas.
Hello.
And if you ordered something in our shop already, and ask yourself, who the hell is packing all these orders? It's us three. Yeah. Thanks to Bonedo for hosting the workshop. On one hand, we have some visitors here. Warte mal. Ja, waren wir nicht online?
Nee, du nicht.
Ach so. Okay. I heard the audio was still off. Can you hear me? Yeah? Good. Hello, my name is Manu from Exploding Shed. And thanks to Bonedo for hosting the workshop. We do a Synth DIY workshop about the Transient Modules for R. It's a random module which can send random triggers to bring your modular patch to life. I'm here today with Ronnie. You have already seen his face, but didn't hear the audio.
Hey-ho.
And Andreas, he will solder for you. So everything about soldering will be in his hands, and you can watch his hands doing the stuff. I will do most of the commenting. And if you ordered something in our shop already, Exploding Shed, and you ask yourself who is packing all these orders, it's us three. And yeah, we organize all the stuff. Andreas is helping Hagen with development. He's also an electrical engineer. And yeah, on one hand, the workshop is for the registered participants who bought the kit 2 weeks ago. We shipped it to their place, and now we solder in real time. They can watch the stream. We have a chat going on. So if you have questions while soldering, you can write it in the chat, either the YouTube chat or the private chat. It's up to you. Ronnie can manage to take the chat into the stream, so we can, if it's a question which is interesting for everybody, we can put it on the screen. Yeah, generally, if someone has a question, you can write comments in the YouTube chat, and if we have the time, we will answer it. Yeah. The workshop is also meant as a general kind of introduction into Synth DIY. If you are into modular and never soldered your own modules, you might be interested. How does it look like? Am I capable of soldering? So maybe we can take away your fear a little bit. Yeah. Good. Then I would say we switch over. Or did I forget something?
No, I think we're fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Looks good.
I would say we switch over to Andreas' camera, and we will take the kit. We do this kind of workshops every couple of months, and if you're interested in joining us next time as an active participant, the best way to get informed, I think, is our newsletter. It will pop up somewhere as kind of a banner in the stream. You can register yourself. I have a delay, an audio delay here. Give me a second. Okay. yeah, what do we have? We have some small components, some bigger ones. We have the front panel and the PCB itself, the printed circuit board. And all the components will be soldered onto the printed circuit board. And in a minute, we will talk about what to do first. Yeah, I would say let's sort out all the big components first, all the mechanical parts, because we will need this later. And we will talk a little bit about parts then. And this kit was available in our workshop as two different versions, you have to solder SMT or SMD, surface mount device, surface mount technology. It's very small parts. Maybe Andreas can show these kind of parts in a minute. It's very small parts, and many people fear a little bit to work with these kind of parts. They are meant to, yeah. Maybe we can, it's a bit dark. Yeah, we will open it, and then you can see it. It's normally meant for machines to solder them, so not for humans. So it's a bit difficult. It's very tiny, but these ones are possible to solder by hand. So we sold the DIY kit as two different versions, as SMT already prepared if you fear it. So you only have to work with the through-hole components, and some of you will have to do the SMT by themselves. So we will go to the SMT then first, because normally you start with the most flat components, and these are the tiniest ones, so we'll start with them. Otherwise, you can't solder them very good because it's too crowded already on the PCB. Generally, about soldering, for this kind of work, maybe you can show your iron. You use this kind of pencil-like tips. There are also tips which look like a screwdriver. They are, I would say, too big for this kind of work. So this is the thing to go for. Then, of course, you need some tools like the solder wire itself. And there it's also very important what kind of brand, what kind of mixture, what kind of alloy you use. You can see here yeah, the brand, and it's Stanol Kristall 611. We also sell this in the shop. We tested many different solders, and meanwhile, they are all lead-free. In former times, leaded solder was still allowed, and it's on one hand, it's good that it's not allowed anymore. But the first generations of lead-free solder were quite difficult to work with, and this is far the best we have found over the last couple of years, and that's why we sell it in the shop. Also very good is a wire cutter. It's absolutely essential because you need to cut off the legs of the components after soldering them. Then maybe a magnifying glass for the very small components and these kind of, was heißt Pinzette eigentlich auf Englisch nochmal?
Tweezers.
Tweezers, yeah, the tweezers, right. To hold the SMT components. It's absolutely essential for this. Then sometimes you need the normal pliers, die Zange, yeah, very good. If you have to pull or to push or to bend something, this is very good. Then we have the Entlötpumpe, solder sucker. You can, so if you messed something up, you can heat it up, heat the solder up again, and then pump it away with this kind of pump. It creates a vacuum. Or a different version of that is you can use these Entlötlitze. I don't know how this is called in English. This is a different way to remove your solder if you messed something up. The multimeter is also your best friend. You can measure resistances, for example, or you can just find short circuits in the overall circuit in the end before you power it up. That's, I would say, quite essential to do it before you fry components like ICs, etc. Yeah, then there's these flux pens. There are different kinds of fluxes, but in the solder we use, there's already flux inside of the solder wire. Without the flux, the solder wouldn't melt and set down in a very good way. It would create bubbles, and it's very shitty to solder. And with this kind of Stanol stuff, it works quite well. Yeah. Good, Andy.
Let's start.
Yeah, or before we start, maybe we could talk a little bit about soldering in general for the people who actually don't solder this kit, but want to grab some information about general DIY. Yeah. What would you say? How much degree on the iron?
I'm about 390, so everything about 360 and 400 degrees with this kind of solder wire. It's perfect.
Yeah,
so,
same with me.
Yeah.
I always use 370 to 390, something like this.
Sometimes I go higher, sometimes I go lower, so
yeah,
it doesn't make.
Also depends on the duration, how long you solder on one point, etc.
Yeah.
And it's and it depends on the solder wire.
Yes, of course.
Totally dependent on the solder wire.
Yeah.
There's so many alloys, and some are meant for lower degrees, some are for higher.
Some start at 140 degrees, and others about 260.
Or I tried to read something on Wikipedia about this, and it was too complicated for me in the end. So I just want to know what works for me, and then
there are hundreds of combinations what's in the solder wire, and
amazing.
Some for hot soldering, some for small degrees.
Yeah, good. So everything generally about soldering, everything is about transferring heat from your iron with the medium solder wire in between and your components and the solder pads on the PCB. Maybe we can show a solder pad or how a PCB looks like. Can we do a close-up? Yeah.
Can you see it? Maybe I can.
A little bit further away. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, there you see the places where the components go. You have these silk screen print. There are also names written on it or values, so you find the positions easily. Different manufacturers do it in a different way. You have some write component names or component numbers on it. Some write directly the values. Everybody does it a bit different. And then, of course, all these soldering points are connected with each other over copper traces between these points you solder. And what you want to do if you solder, for example, a resistor into one place is you want to have a good solder connection between the leg of your resistor and the solder pad on the PCB. And you do this via using solder wire, which melts and then bridges the gap between it. That's generally about soldering. And this can look very smooth, very good, or you can have these kind of bubbles. Maybe we can do a little bit of a painting or something. For the next time, I think we should prepare some pictures of nice and not so nice solder joints. Wait. So where is it? There's my paper. Good. So if this is the PCB, can you see it? Yeah, good. If this is the PCB and this is the leg of your component, for example, you have this resistor here. So, and the resistor leg going through it. In a close-up, it might look like this. You have the leg. If you see this kind of thing, and the solder melts like this and builds bubbles, this is always strange and suspect. What you want to see is this PCB, component leg, and the solder should melt and then set down in this kind of volcano shape. This is the shape you want to see. And oftentimes it's only about heat transfer. If you see these kind of bubbles, you can just heat it up again. And by transferring the heat, it might set down in a very smooth way, I would say. Good. Then let's start with the SMT components. Huh?
Okay, yes.
Yeah, maybe you can open the little box.
So I use the tweezer to open this. It's much more easier. Lay them aside.
So these parts, if you turn them around and see them from the back, there you have some writing on it. And you have always that's difficult to show now.
Yeah, you will see it.
Hey, maybe we should zoom in a little bit, huh? With the RX 100.
Yeah, that's better.
Ja, so. Kannst du so arbeiten?
Ja, das
Ja?
geht schon noch. Es kommt vielleicht ein bisschen runter. Ja.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, maybe you can show the part again.
I don't know if there you can see.
Yeah, you have there's one stripe. There's a white stripe. This is the indication for the polarity, for the direction, how you have to put it into the circuit. And in this case, they have to show to this side.
So the orientation is this white dot.
Ah, okay. In this case,
in the left up corner from the IC.
Yeah. This is facing downwards. So this is upwards. This is downwards later. That's why I talk about upwards and downwards, top and bottom. And the white stripe has to align with the white dot. So, and how you solder this kind of tiny components is that you start with one of these
solder legs.
you have these multiple points. You set a little bit of solder on one of them.
Just like that. I
Yeah.
hope you can
Yeah.
see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Sehr
Okay.
gut. And then you can place your component and make all these little legs align to the solder pads. And then you can solder just this one connection. And then you can control if it's really
You can hold it in place.
in line and so on. And you still have the chance to move it a little bit around. That's why you start with one on the side, on one edges, one corner. And when this is correct, then you can solder all.
I will do it.
All the legs. Oh, I was wondering about the noise, and it's the soldering station. I thought it was coming from the iPad, and it's in the stream also.
Immer mal so ein kurzes Sinus, ne?
Also ein Brummen.
Yeah.
About soldering in general. It's good to place your iron in this corner between component leg. I mean, it's difficult, more easy to explain with through-hole components. You heat up the solder pad and the leg of your component at the same time. And equally, that's important because everything is about having the same temperature. And then you apply a little bit of solder. Maybe, is it possible to, oops, go a little bit like this?
Yeah. It's not the best position for me.
Now we can also move the camera. Then make a choice about the position, and I will.
Or to myself. Not zu mir. Das geht.
Mach mal.
Das wäre perfekt.
Is it okay, Ronny?
Mhm.
Yeah. Good.
Perfect.
Okay.
Gut, dann kommen wir zurück.
Yeah. You start by heating up the component leg and the solder pad. Then you apply your solder wire. You take away the solder wire, and then you take away the soldering iron. So this is. There was a question. It was too silent. Yeah. Should we talk louder or what?
No, you have to scroll down.
Oh yeah, many comments. Jesus Christ.
Nimmst du am besten mit auf den Schoß.
Yeah. Okay, I have only a stripe. On the component, you mean? On the component, you see the stripe. Yeah, the orientation again.
So
On the
here's on the IC there's a gray line.
Yeah, gray white line.
Gray red line with the name on it, and the line indicates the orientation for the IC. And on the PCB, there's in one corner, it's up here when you see on the back from the PCB, there's a small dot.
Yeah, it's there, there, and there. And here is the white line on this side. and the white line has to white lines on all three have to show towards this area here. Is that more clear? By the way, we have a little bit of a delay in the stream, so we might get your answers a bit late. Okay. Yeah, I think this was more clear.
So maybe I will explain a little bit about SMD soldering here. So I had this little bridge about 2 pins, and I tried to remove it. The first step is, if you don't have any solder pump or desoldering wire like this, then you can try it first with your iron, heat it a little bit up, and pull it away.
Pull the solder away. Yeah. Yeah, it's the same I did.
So, or from
I was
left to
just
right.
building one of these kits prior to the workshop, and
So don't heat it up too long, but normally it will have a problem. Only if you heat it up for a long time, then it can be damaged. So now I had too much of wire on this place, so I have to use some of my tools. So what can also work is if you have flux, if you don't have any desolder pump or desoldering wire and you can't get it away, try it with flux if you have it. There are different versions. This is a pencil. There are also honey. We call this honey.
yeah, Löthonig.
Löthonig.
I like these pens.
And drip it a little bit.
I'm sure it's very chemical,
Go on this point.
but it works nice. The magic smoke appears.
Okay. There's too much solder on this joint, so
plan B.
plan B is the desoldering wire.
Do you prefer this desoldering wire?
For SMD components, yes.
Oh.
It's much better than the pumps. Pumps are better for through-hole components. If you want to get the solder out of the holes, it's sometimes easier, but for SMD, desoldering wire is the
Okay, let's go.
So you lay it down on your joint and heat it up. When it's get melt, you pull it a little bit away, and you get a perfect wire point.
Yeah.
So first one is finished, so I start with the others. Oops. I use just a little bit, not just a little bit.
Yeah, less as
possible.
Just the minimum. It's not so critical when you do through-hole components because everything is bigger. But here, it's a bit difficult, especially for beginners, because you don't see so good if the connection is well compared to through-hole components. Yeah.
I also heat up the first joint that I made for a holding, just in case that it's a bad solder joint. Because if you do your solder point on one place and put your SMD part,
I do everything again. Sometimes the first one was a bit wackelig, you know. It's good to do them all again. By the way, if you can't follow this because we are too fast or something like this, the stream will be online. So you can always watch it later again. Yeah.
And one other tip, if you don't have desoldering wire or flux or solder pump and you have bad connections or solder two pins together and can't get it away, you can try with some flex wire. It also works. Just in case you want to finish this.
Litze.
Yeah, that's
braided.
Yeah.
Braided wire. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's the cheap version of.
It's not perfect, but it works.
Yeah, good trick. I never heard it. Our plan is to take some SMT tools and also easy SMT kits in the shop over the next time. Whatever next time might mean. Also, more and more small manufacturers like Transient or Patching Panda, etc. Meanwhile, or ourselves also, we're working with SMT components more often because we all in this scene, I think, professionalized ourselves a little bit, and we meanwhile have machines for SMT placement, pick and place machines, and it's very easy to match these grade between full DIY and easy DIY, where you only have to throw in the big components. So, or you can also very easily go into the direction of offering complete modules, which was very tricky before. When you only do through-hole components, it's a lot of work. So with these kind of parts, the machine can do part of the work at least. Okay. So how is it with you? The people who did the SMD soldering, how far are you? We will check the chat. Because then in the next step, we would move on to the resistors.
So nobody is yelling?
No yelling, no screaming.
Okay.
Good. Then I would say let's move on to the 100K resistors. It's two resistors. Yeah, there was a question.
Please wait. We have some dudes with
okay.
just one.
Done with the first one.
Yeah.
Good. So it needs some time. That's always difficult. If you sit on this end, we can't see you. So you can't see. You can see us, but we can't see you.
So for those who want a super clear SMD soldering points, it's good to have a flux pen and desoldering wire.
Yeah.
I think it's necessary for often SMD parts, but you can after you solder the pins, put a little flux on it and soldering again. It will look like it's full flow better and looks like it's like from the machine.
What do you mean? Put flux on it?
Put flux on it if you finished with your SMD part and it works, but it looks like it's not the best style of SMD soldering. Put a little flux on it
and then do it again.
Or do it again a little bit and
it
gives some better.
The machine
joints.
trick.
The machine.
Cheating.
brings me to another point. We have these tweezers already lying around in our shop, but we didn't put them in the shop.
These ones, yeah.
Will be available very soon. Maybe we can do that next week, huh? We also have these desoldering braid.
Yeah, we have
Blödwitze.
another one.
we have
another
some
one,
there.
but we have some in the shop.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah, it's not listed in the shop
it's not
already
listed, yeah.
because we had so much to do now. But we can put it up. Maybe we can, yeah. And then we will have some magnifying glasses also.
I think maybe these ones will
Yeah,
the choice. They're very good.
yeah,
So
they are good.
I use them daily for soldering.
Mhm. Yeah, we tried all the stuff before. And maybe you can show the flux pen for people who are interested. What kind of brand is it?
It's also from Stone.
Ah,
I buy it by Reichelt in Germany,
Yeah.
but you can order it on Mauser or DigiKey or wherever you order some stuff.
mhm. What's the name? What's standing on it?
It's Stone Flux Stift X 32 minus 10 E.
Fluxstift X. Okay, get the Fluxstift X. That's the real one.
Sometimes the honey is a better choice, but that's, I think,
It's a
more
bit
from
sticky and
advanced. Yeah,
yeah.
if you have very small components,
it's a bit trickier, huh?
Nah,
Or not? Ah, it
it's-
sticks, huh?
it
It sticks then.
Yeah, it helps sometimes if your component is very small, like on this PCB. Also, the 1603 sizes.
Mhm.
If you put flux in it, it can
Yeah, it
can
holds
flow
the component.
on the point. So
Yeah.
if it's laying on the
Mhm.
by the side and you try to solder it, sometimes it helps and
Yeah, it builds a small bubble
yeah.
and doesn't go away.
Yeah.
So quickly. Ah, yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't have too much SMT knowledge myself. Mostly I did THT, the bigger components. And I did all the cables. If you buy cables in our shop, I did all the fucking cables over years and years. And but now Andreas joined me a little bit. So much
Yeah,
to do recently.
Sometimes there are many orders about cables, and we
Yeah,
didn't find the time to make all of them.
yeah, cables are
in one
nice.
day.
Yeah, these days I'm mostly in the office and or packing orders. Good. I don't know. Could we go to the first resistors?
Let's ask the chat.
Hey, maybe let's just start with the two resistors.
So we have many of them.
And then, yeah, we have many of them. And who has a little bit of experience, maybe they can rausholen some time there. Again. We start, there's one belt with only two resistors. This is the value 100K. If you want to prove this, you can also take a multimeter and measure them. Yeah, the thing with these resistors is you hold the body of the resistor and then you bend the legs directly at the body in a 90-degree angle. And then you should have the exact measurement which fits into the PCB. So if you put these in place now, do you need the picture, Andreas?
Maybe you can see it.
Yeah.
I found the first one.
100K.
So let's see, where's the other one? 100K.
It's between the microcontroller and the
Yeah.
first
Here. No?
TL. Yeah, is it online there? Yeah. Is this number 2?
So
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. Connie is bringing it up. Yeah, that's too far. Nearly first page. There, number 2, is it? This one. Yeah, you can show it. There it is. These two are the 100K resistors. You put them into place, and then you do it like Andy.
So yeah, I bend them, put them in place. Sometimes I hold them on the back, or I just flip the board really fast and control if they're laying flat on the PCB.
There was one comment. If you hold the PCB the other way up, it will be the same as the build manual, which would be easier. In the build manual, this small stripe is to the right, like this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like that. It's easier to identify, huh? Very good. Okay, then you turn it over. I mean, what you can do, you can use all kind of fancy holders, etc., blah blah. But I would say the easiest thing is still just to put it flat on your table, turn it around, and then go for it. What you can do if you fear that your components fall out, you can bend the legs a little bit like this. You can open them a little bit, but in the workshops we did, oftentimes we have seen it that people bend them over like this. They hold in place very good, but that's at the same time the problem, because if you want to remove them later, if you messed it up, you have put a resistor in the wrong place or so, and you want to desolder it again, then you can't get it out of the PCB again. That's very difficult then. So I would say maybe do it like Andy did, just a little bit. Then they don't fall out, and then you can put them on the table and you can solder. Another thing which could be interesting, I will show it in a minute. So here you see very clearly the important thing is the solder wire, which melts, builds the bridge between your component leg and the PCB, the solder pad on the PCB. So first you heat it up, and you heat the leg up, and you heat the solder pad at the same time. If you only heat the leg, apply solder, and the solder pad and the component leg are not in an equal temperature, the same temperature, the solder itself might maybe look like a correct solder joint, but you don't have a correct solder joint. So sometimes you have these bubbles sitting on the PCB, then that's quite shitty. What you want to see is this, the volcano shape. If you have a bubble, just put your iron to it, maybe a little bit of fresh solder, because then new flux comes into the place, and then it sets down like this.
Normally it's easier to do a little bit of solder before you soldering the joint on your tip.
Because then the heat transfer is better. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, everybody has to find her own method. Yeah. Sometimes, especially if you had more components on the PCB, and which have different heights, so it might wobble around while soldering. What you also could use is this kind of stuff. It's very nice. Is it? Wo sind wir denn hier? Da. Hammer. Adhesive paste. Haftpaste. It's very good for product photography. and you could use it like stabilizing your board or whatever with that, and it doesn't leave any residues on paper or wherever. So just wanted to mention this trick. Okay, Andy.
So the 100K are finished, so I
Mhm.
cut them apart.
Yeah, cut the legs off. And if you cut off legs, generally it's a good idea to hold them with your finger and then cut them, because otherwise they can fly around. And in the worst case, they fly into your eye, or also very nice in keyboards, like or synthesizer keyboards, you
Yeah.
know, and then they're gone.
Or your PC or some.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
Or
Or
on
it's in the lies on the carpet, and then you have it in the feed next time. Okay, then let's go over to the 18 times 10K resistors.
These bunch
It's
of
the
resistors,
largest
yeah.
amount. It's the belt with 18 resistors. Then you can cut them off, and
So I will do it in 2 times, so I don't have to cut too many of them and they're laying around. And
yeah, I must say the picture quality is much better than in the first workshop we did. It looks very good, huh? Yeah, we also tried to work on the audio. We have these fancy lavalier microphones now, so hopefully the sound is better and the picture is better. And thanks to Ronnie, he's very good with streaming. He has these sequencer talk. He streams every week, so he has a lot of knowledge about this, and this helped, of course, with gaining the quality here. By the way, I think the next online workshop will be in late April or early May. I would like to put it online as fast as possible. And we want to build these 3-tom MF22 stereo filter MS-20 inspired filter, very good sound. And we had one batch there and sold it super fast, so we thought maybe we can do a workshop with that. Possibly this will be the next one. And the way you get informed about this, the best thing is you just join our newsletter. By the way, you get a €5 discount code if you join now in March. It's our birthday month. Who didn't know? We are 5 years old now.
Yay!
We made some nice actions this month with discounts and stuff. And who joins the newsletter this month will get a €5 discount code for April. Then it's active from 1st of April, I think. Okay, Andy was fast,
next
huh?
one.
Now, same thing again. First, heating up the component leg and the solder pad, then apply a little bit of solder. In the solder wire is included flux, which makes it set down very smoothly.
So no, I've done only one leg of the resistors, because that's also a good point. If you have components with different heights, so it's good to solder only one leg first. Turn it around and have a look if your components are flat to the PCB. So then you can control it, and if your component is too far away from the PCB, you can only heat that one joint up and push it to the PCB, and you're fine. If you soldered the whole component, also the resistor, these two joints, and your component is maybe a centimeter or so away from your PCB, it's much more difficult to bring it back. So you have to heat up the two legs. So
you have only
I'm often doing is like I'm just soldering once, turn it around, have a look, it's everything fine, fits it perfect. So and then I start with the others.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, there was a question about the order. Why solder in this order? Mostly you start with the most flat components, because if you turn your PCB on top, or if you start with high components on the PCB, like polarized capacitors or so, you turn it around, you solder it, and then you put in the next step the more flat components like resistors or so. You turn it around, and of course you have these offset of the big capacitor, and they will fall out. So you start with the most flat components and then slowly work your way up. That's the way you normally do. Or in other cases you have, like with these op-amps, which are the SMT op-amps, which Andy did first. If the whole PCB is crowded with parts, it's very difficult to reach these areas to solder it correctly. So that's one thing I would say. You work your way up in height.
So it's like I said, if you start with the flat ones, you can easily turn it around and lay it on the ground. If you have all different kinds of components on the PCB already, and it's laying like this, you have to put something in, you have to hold it with your finger. And
and falls out, etc. Yeah, it's good to think a bit in levels, height levels. Do all the stuff at once which has the same height. Yeah, you hold the body and just bend the legs directly at the body, and then normally you have the spacing of the holes in the PCB.
Yeah. It depends on the designer.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, you can also use small components like this, small resistors, but build a long bridge with it, because other traces are going under it on the backside of the PCB. Sure, that's possible. But oftentimes it is like this.
Do we have any questions about soldering right now, or everything fine?
Not really, but we can do a little bit of a chit chat. So if you have any other questions,
Yeah, just ask questions. We try to answer them.
So
it's a bit like meditation. Yeah, still 18 times 10K resistors, 10 kilo ohm. And in this build manual by Transient Modules, he also wrote the color code. Brown, black, black, red, brown, for example. If you don't have a multimeter to measure them, I mean, in this kit, you don't have to measure them, but if you cut them off and mix them up or so, you can identify them by the color code. You also find tools on the web. And yeah, if you Google for resistant color codes, you will find all the information. Or you just use the multimeter to identify them. Okay, Andy goes. So first he does only one leg mostly. Oh man, difficult question. What's the best-selling DIY module?
Whew.
At Exploding Shed.
Difficult.
It's difficult.
So different every day.
Yeah, sure, but I would say Befaco Rampage is huge.
What's the difficult?
Nee.
The best.
Best-selling.
Best-selling.
Ui. So it depends. It's a wave like,
Yeah,
I would say.
It changes, of course, but Befaco Rampage is kind of huge. The Robaux modules are quite huge. But also
Sonic Potions.
The
male.
The quantizer.
The quantizer, yeah.
Yeah.
Male 2, was it? No.
Here it is. It's very easy and it just works. And Befaco Stereo Mix.
Yeah.
Very good module. Simple, but very good. Because you need mixers anyway. And there are more and more stereo modules on the market. So you need stereo mixers. And
you can also use it as a mono mixer.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
Expand it with the hex mix and hex Pandor.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a complete mixing system. Yeah, Befaco did a great job on this. Definitely.
So I think they're all good.
And I think this is also a reason why 3-tone modulars how is it called? MS22 is going so well, because it's one of the few stereo filters. You need filters anyway.
So ADAC has also a stereo filter, I think, yeah?
Yeah. Okay, so one...
I missed one.
One participant asked us in the chat to show us the...
In the private chat.
In the private chat, yeah, to show us the SMT components. So we will have a look at this. Yeah.
In the meantime, let's do some other things.
Ah, 3-ton modular. Hey, how is it, man? We just chatted on Instagram today. I'd love to hear about how you guys got started 5 years ago. Oh yeah. Well, I was doing DIY workshops as Leaf Audio for a long time and driving around since 2009 about. And in 2015, Hagen and I thought maybe now it could be the time for opening a shop, because in 2010 it was, I guess, very difficult, and also we were not prepared for it at this time. Yeah, it came all from these workshop scene, and we were super busy all these years, did a lot of nice workshops all over the place. And then we said, hey, let's start a shop, but we had no money. But we did it somehow, and we bought a couple of Bifaco modules and cable material and stuff, and just did what we did all the time. But also started distributing stuff in a very small scale at first, and we just built it up with a lot of manpower, many ideas, no money, and we just tried to do it. And there were really more than 2-3 situations where we had the feeling it doesn't turns out very well, or we're going bankrupt in the next minute or something like this. Yeah, but we did it. Also, very interesting situation was when we released the Soundbox. We did a pre-sale with the Soundbox in, I don't know, 3 years ago or so, and it was our first own product which sold so good, or which had generated so much interest at Superbooth. And then we had the production process, worked it out, and everything was ready. And so we did a pre-sale. We had, I don't know how many, but it was kind of a lot of pre-sales, and PayPal just detected, hey, here's an increase of income very suddenly. And then they had a look, why? And they have seen, oh, it's a pre-sale, and they just grabbed all our money. Everything was frozen. 20,000 euro were just frozen, and we didn't have the money to produce the product. That was the point. So we had to organize private money to put it into our company. To be able to deliver, we had to prove we have delivered, and then they released our money. So we were almost bankrupt just by PayPal freezing our account. And they took everything which came in afterwards. So they grabbed everything and just had frozen it over, I don't know, 2 months or something like this. That was
crazy.
I can remember we sit down and at the evening, and you told me the story, and it was completely unbelievable.
I couldn't believe it, and I tried to talk with them and everything. No chance. I mean, I can understand it, that if somebody does a pre-sale for a non-existing product, that's not a sale. That's a Kickstarter. It's a different thing. But we had everything ready to go, and yeah, we had stuff like this. It was interesting, I would say. And we still do DIY stuff, packing orders every day, and we like it to get in contact with people, and it's still something which is kind of meaningful, because we want to do this. It's not a fucking job. It's the thing we want to do. Yeah, anyway. So is it still
No,
10K? It's the next one now.
I'm on the next one. I'm on the 1K, I think.
Now then,
8.
number 4 is 4 times 24.9K.
okay.
So which
So
one is it now?
It's the 1K, so but I can change them. I just
Mm.
only
Yeah.
plug them in.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay. Let's do. In the manual, it's number 4. 4 times 24.9K. And I'm sure this is a pretty accurate resistor. I mean, all these resistors are metal film resistors with a tolerance of 1%.
It depends. There are also 1%, 5%, 10% resistors.
Yeah, but this usual metal film stuff, which we also use, it's always 1%. But
we
you also
only
have
buy
these
the
0.1%.
Yeah, but there also are 5%, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
The cheapest ones are 5%.
Yeah, we always use these 1% thingies, but I don't know. Maybe this is a very accurate one. Sometimes you need very precise ones if you use it to generate very specific voltages, for example.
Like for VCOs or something.
Yeah, for
you
VCOs,
need some
for the 1 volt per octave thing,
tracking.
and so, or we used very accurate ones in the NTBA module. It was a digital oscillator with a switch.
So the 24.9 are on the ICs on the top and on the left side.
Yeah,
on the
directly above and below the ICs, and on the side of the first one, of the top one. Yeah, same thing here. Heat up the stuff with the iron, apply the solder. Yeah, there are multiple ways of soldering. I mean, you can also put the solder wire first, heat up the solder wire, and it directly melts onto the solder joint, onto the surfaces. So then, because having a little bit of fresh melted solder in place raises the chance for a good heat transfer. Yeah, hold the legs, cut them off. And how does it look, Andy?
Yeah, this looks fine.
Yeah.
So I think
we
will do the 1K, the last one.
Good, then it's 0.5 in the manual. 8 times 1 kilo ohm resistor. Yeah, you have already cut them.
All right,
Yeah, good.
I'm finished. How about the others? Where are they?
Mhm. Sieht gut aus.
Ja? Mhm.
Ja, kann ich voll sprechen. Ja.
So, how about you? Did you manage the resistors already, or where are you on the 1K? Maybe I can show at the moment how I desolder some joints if you accidentally put solder on another component. That's the best way for the solder pump. If you have any, well, I can show it easily. I take here a place, and if you have put accidentally solder on this point, you can use the pump. You load it like that, heat the joint up, put it in, and push the button. And if you've done it correctly, it should go away.
Yeah, that's always a bit tricky if you filled the holes accidentally.
So I don't know if you can see it or saw it. It's fine already.
Yeah, it's free again.
Free, yeah. Another method is to use.
Can you show this again, please?
The whole process. Yeah, okay. So if you have a bad one, like here, you put solder on the wrong place.
Yeah, sometimes it happens that you accidentally close holes, etc.
Heat it up, yeah.
Yeah, then
The pump suck it
reheat it.
away, so that was not enough. So let's see.
I mean, in the absolute worst case, you can also use a small drill with a Dremel or so.
What I recommend first is use an old lac from a resistor or so, that you cut it apart. The best way is to hold it with a tweezer. You don't have to
Yeah, it gets hot otherwise.
getting hot, and heat up the joint. Push it through, put it away, and it should be fine. So
yeah. Many tricks.
So should we start?
Yeah,
the
then
other ones?
let's go over to the 22 picofarad capacitors.
Capacitors.
Yeah, 22. It's the
Okay.
small ones. They have a spacing of
That's 4 of it, yeah.
yeah, four capacitors.
This one's.
And they have a
Okay.
spacing of 2.5 millimeter grid.
So
This
I
one's
think that's the small points, yeah.
yeah.
So
Three of them are in one row on the right side of the PCB.
So these kinds of capacitors don't have any orientation.
Yeah,
So
they have no polarity, so it doesn't matter. Like with resistors, you can put them in this way or the other way. That doesn't count. There will be some parts which have a clear orientation, so where it's necessary to put them in a specific direction, but not with these ones. Here, the same thing. They fall out quite easily. You could bend these legs a little bit so they don't fall out completely. But
Can you show this?
I can do it on the edge, but you have to be
yeah,
a little bit,
but not too much.
so they hold in place. Yeah.
Yeah, I always do it. They are wobbling around all the time. That's very essential, I think, to do only one leg first, and then you can heat it up and move it in the correct position. So oftentimes, if you put it on the back, and then they are standing like this, but not straight. So if you solder them in this way, but only with one leg, you can heat it up
And make it straight, yeah.
That's
Make
it straight.
my way to solder components. Yeah. I only solder once, turn it around, have a look if it's flat or is it not straight or so.
Yeah, or sometimes it blocks the space of the next part which comes next to it or something. Yeah.
It's good to have a look first on your PCB. Often every time you have a manual for your DIY links, but it's good to have a look. And if you soldered many kits or soldered often, you know and take a look. Okay, maybe I should start there or
do one first.
So that looks fine. So that's it.
Good. And then the next components will be the 7 times 100 nanofarad capacitors. They look kind of the same, but they have a spacing of 5 millimeter and shorter legs. And possibly they are even more difficult to solder because they are super wobbly. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice that Ronnie can insert the pictures from the manual in the stream. That's super fancy. Yeah, we will do more workshops like this.
Woohoo!
All right.
Yeah. I crashed 2 modules with desoldering. Yup, welcome to the club. Me too. Huh, I fucked up our own module.
Really?
No, I couldn't make it work. There was something with switches, and I messed up the orientation of the switches. And then, I don't know, I didn't manage to get it to work. Because when I pulled out the switches,
Yeah.
I pulled out the complete tube, you know, the
Oh,
Durchkontaktierung to the other
okay.
side.
Yeah.
And then I had to fiddle around very hard. I was drilling holes into the PCB and was working with wires and blah. Such a shit, but I didn't manage.
I also had 1 or 2 bad modules at home. Put them in a box and
Yeah, put them in a box of shame and then just forget about it. Everybody has this. But of course, it's really a shit if you buy a Befaco hex mix and you mess it up and you don't find the mistake. That's difficult then.
Maybe not the best one to start DIY.
So I had this problem with the hack mix. I forgot to solder a transistor leg.
Yeah.
And one LED was not going, but it's worked in most cases, and just only the LED. And I tried to find it, and that's our 2 PCBs. 2 PCBs. The transistor is on the first, so the other one is over the other, and you can't get them easy away. And
what is really friendly to do is the sonic portions modules. It's super friendly, very easy.
Next time we need some background music.
Yeah, we have to make a nice patch on the modular. So, yeah, really. Good. The next thing is normally the electrolytic capacitors, but they are bigger than the diodes.
Yeah.
I would say let's switch this with the next step. So we do the diodes first. It's we go to number 9 and then go back to number 8 because the capacitors are higher than the diodes. Let's do the diodes. So this is another component which has a polarity. You see on the body of the component, you see a black body with a white stripe. Muss mal weiter weggehen. Yeah, there. On the right side, you see this stripe. There it is. This shows the orientation, and you will find this stripe on the silk screen print of the PCB.
So it has to look like this.
Yeah, there.
In this direction, yeah.
Stripe on stripe. Yeah, one is in this direction and the other is in the other direction. Facing towards the right and left side of the PCB. Bei dir. Another thing we could mention is that if you have some solder pads, some component legs, whatever, which are very close to each other, then you have to look if they can have a contact, if it's intended to be like this, or if they have to be separate. And if there are some points very close together and it's not intended to bridge them, you should come from the side where you have, you should come with the iron from that side where you have lots of space, because the solder always goes to the place with the most heat.
Yeah.
And
So as an example of the diodes, not between these two, some just from one side and the other side.
Then you come from this side where you have lots of space, because this is the direction where the solder will flow to. So this is how you can control in which direction it flows. Good. And then we have these transistors, 2N.
The capacitors.
3,9. Also, capacitors. Yeah, we have to go back. We missed out the capacitors. Electrolytic capacitors, 10 microfarad.
So they are also polarity.
They have a polarity. They have one short leg and one long leg. This is how you can identify it. Long leg is plus, short leg is minus. And on the minus side, you also have this stripe, which a little minus sign normally included in the stripe. And on the PCB itself, you mostly have a mark for the plus. Means you have to find the direction, how it's correct, and then you have to bend the body of it. Sometimes you have it that they are meant to stand upright, and sometimes if the module is very flat, thin, however, if space is a thing there, they are built in a lying position, and then you have to flip them over before you solder it. So if you solder them in, just stick them in, solder them, then you can't bend them over anymore, because the legs are too short and you will ruin it. Yeah. Then you just check the polarity again, and if it's really correct like this, and then you can solder them. I must say that this module is relatively friendly. On some modules, you have very small solder pads. It's just very tiny rings, and it's very hard to get a contact for your solder wire, for your solder. Here, it's also very narrow, everything, but it still works quite fine, I think.
The transistors are not so big, but the other ones are fine. Yeah, that are big enough.
Yeah. Good. Then you have to cut off the legs. And the next thing is then the transistors. You have 3 components which kind of look like the same. They have the same package. It's called package. The form factor. It's called package. In my kit, they haven't been on a belt, so they were single. It might be that you have 3 thingies which look totally the same. And then you have to identify what is what. Best do it by a magnifying glass. And then you can just read.
Use the big one. Maybe.
Yeah, I think most of the people can see it by itself. It's, I think, the best way.
Yeah. You have these 3904 transistors, and one is a voltage regulator. This is called 7805. So you have to identify this. They look the same, but different function. So then you take the transistors first, 2N3904. You possibly have to bend the middle leg a little bit into the direction of the
Find
back.
the holes there.
I would describe the flat side as the front and the round side as the back.
Yeah, it's
So they have an orientation too.
They have an orientation on the PCB.
Yeah, and you see the form factor also printed on the PCB. And there it's, as the module is only 2 HP, it has to be has to be pushed down quite far as possible to the PCB, so that there's as less space as possible. And you can do it like Andy does it, put them in place and then just press and wobble around a little bit. And normally they hold in place very good, then they don't fall out. Yeah, and then just solder it.
Okay.
Yeah, looks
For
good.
me, it looks fine. You can bend them afterwards, adjust a little bit, but they're flat enough. Yes.
Yeah, good. And then the next thing is this voltage regulator called 7805. And this comes on the
Near
lower,
by the power.
yeah, on the lower edge of the module. Same thing, push it in as far as possible. Orientation is essential.
Oops. So how about you?
How's it going?
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, good. Then the next thing is the power header.
So we need our
Now we need the mechanical parts.
power header. There it is.
And there it's possibly normally it's put through the PCB, but as this is a super small, super flat 2 HP module, he has done it in a different way, which is also very clever. You put the PCB itself between the legs of the power header. And
So it has connection on both sides.
yeah, it has a connection on both sides. Orientation is not essential here because it's always the same on one pair. You have plus 12 volt on one side of the header, minus 12 volt on the other, and everything in between is ground. So, and what you have to do is you have to add a little bit of solder to at least one of these points, because otherwise the header will fall off. You need to create a little bit of thickness now.
So it's the same thing like SMD soldering right here. I put a little bit solder on one point. I used the middle one because sometimes if you heat them up, these plastics bends as fast. So you can
Yeah, the
use
plastic
one on the outside.
heats up quite quickly, and then these legs they bend.
So,
Okay.
and for the middle one, it's easy. I can use my fingers, and that didn't get hot. So bring it on the point. Heat this joint up and push it in place. So if it's look like this, it's fine. Then we can solder the others.
Yeah, we had a question here about the power connector, which looks differently. I'm waiting for an answer now. But that's the way. Yeah, you put it on. You have to have a little bit of pressure. Then it holds by itself, and then you can just solder it.
You can reheat it and switch it a little bit if it's not in place or so.
It's like super big SMT.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have to keep the soldering duration as short as possible with these kind of components, because the plastic melts sometimes quite fast, and then these pins just fall off or stick through in a strange way, and they are very stiff. Okay, I have to look over here. Isn't it the same one?
Looks the same.
Yeah.
So it's a 2-row.
Yeah. Okay, I'm listening. Yeah, that's right. It's 2 rows and straight, not angled. This one, the power connector, the power header has 2 rows and is straight. And you put...
So it goes between the PCB. I was also confused at the first time. but it's a 2 row and it's straight, and you put them between the PCB and solder them on both sides.
Yeah, that's the trick.
That's the way. So I think I'll explain it again. I choose one of these points. It doesn't depend on this side or the other side. So maybe this one is easier because your components upwards. So you put a little solder on one point without the component, and then do it like we at the beginning with the S&D part. You pick it, heat it up, push your component on place. You wait until it's sticks, and maybe you have to rejoin it a little bit, and then you can easily solder the other ones.
Yeah, I do it a little bit differently. I would put a little bit of solder on 2 points or something, and then, on one side and on the other side.
Yeah, you can do it like that also. Yeah.
Stick it on so it has some pressure and it holds, and then solder the others first, and then the first ones. But there are many ways which lead you to your goal. Everybody has to find his own preferences there.
Yeah, here it's easy with the 1/6 millimeter PCB, because this joins between this rows sorry, fits perfect, so it doesn't.
Yeah, that's cool.
Direction.
And it's a cool way to keep the whole module very flat in the end. It's good. Okay, so what's the next thing then? Now we have to fiddle around a bit with the mechanical stuff, especially with these. Now we come to these angled headers. And it should be seven of them in total. They are all the same, but first we only use 2 of them. And what you have to do is, I would say it's best done with a pliers. You have to push the plastic part down as far as possible.
To the angle?
Into this angle, yeah. But when I tried it, it was more pushing through these kind of pins into the plastic and not the other way around. So you have to push the plastic down into the angle.
Go like this, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah. You can't look on the screen.
With the finger, it's very hard, but it also works. But if we have a tool, I use the tool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when you have this, you can take, there are 2 jumpers included in these mechanical parts. 2 small jumpers.
These ones, yeah?
This one's. And now, what's quite easy is to put these, wait. Yeah. To put this on the thingy, and then you can hold this better, because otherwise you get a hot finger, when you solder it.
That's a good point, yeah.
So I've done it like this, and it worked quite well. And you can push it as far. You can push it as far down on the PCB as possible, because otherwise it's too thick.
For me, it also works to hold it on the plastic thing.
Yeah.
With my
with a finger
with
nail.
nail.
Yeah.
And then it's super flat and perfect in position. And
it's even better.
So
I would say.
I use my solder wire and make a little. Let it stand up, turn it around, and go with my PCB in position.
Yeah, it's the same thing I do. And then do one first, then you can control everything if the angle is right and if it's correct. You can do the next one.
That's a good idea with the jumpers.
Yeah, because this is always the point. You get a fucking hot finger if it smells like chicken and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then control it if the position is correct. And this is actually really for putting these jumpers on. By them, later you decide if it should work unipolar or bipolar. So if it only works between 0 and 5 volts, or it's if it really is from minus volts to plus.
So, and I think we have to cut them also away.
Yeah, we have to cut it off because this is the side. Actually, this is left and right of the module, and it has to fit into this 2 HP thing. It stands upright, and then it has to be flat in the end.
So you will have a 3 HP module.
Yeah, with included possibly power starving or whatever random function might appear. Included circuit bending.
All right.
Yeah. Super. Then you have to do the same thing to the other angled pin headers.
Yeah.
With one difference.
I think I have to use my PCB. I read it maybe.
No. It's this now. We have to push this plastic again into the angle, but with the difference that the space between these lower part and the plastic body has the thickness of the PCB.
Yeah, I used.
I mean, you can do it in a different way. Just show it in your way.
So my idea was to take the connector, hold it on the PCB with one hand, with the finger straight, and then push the plastic down.
Yeah, if it works, yeah, right. And this will then actually connect the two PCBs, the small PCB with the jacks, the audio jacks.
So.
And the main PCB. Ja.
Schön mittig halten.
Oops. All right. So I think we have to put the plastic side on our big PCB. Or how does it look like in
yeah.
the manual?
The
okay.
plastic,
Yeah.
the plastic side is sitting on the PCB, and then the actual angle is over the PCB, over the plastic bodies, hanging in the air.
Yeah. Looks like that, huh?
Hmm.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
Yeah, and this is the place where the second small PCB will be connected then.
Okay. Do I want to do all of them in once or start only with one first? So I think I will do one by one. It's easier. And do the same thing. So just doing one on any connector.
Oops.
The example hole.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's very difficult.
So
Once it was closed, even if it's open, the diameter is then reduced, and especially very tricky when you have components with 6 legs or more or something, and you have some of the holes were closed once and you had to open them.
especially if you have soldered 2 legs and have to push them both together and have a big distance between, and you can't put your solder iron between those 2 pins. So you have sometimes I
Then you need
change quickly as possible from
airflow.
one to other. Okay, now it looks
think
like
we can speed up a little bit.
okay. I think so I have the idea to put the other PCB first, push them through the holes where it have to be.
Why? To bend it in the right
Yeah,
angle, or
just
what?
to see if it fits already, or I have to solder it in another position. So I will push it down, heat up this joint again, one by one.
Andy's special trick. Oh yeah, you only did the first ones of each, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Already. So
Yeah,
it fits
then
perfect.
you
so
still have the chance to change
just
the
adjust them.
change the angle. Yeah, good.
Okay.
Yeah, and if this fits, I mean, you can also control it just by viewing it from the side, and then you can do all of them.
So, Andy, what was your first DIY module?
My first DIY module.
It was a cable.
My first Eurorack DIY module, maybe. My first DIY module was something built by my own, I think. But the first Eurorack module DIY, good question. I think it was from Transient or Bifaco. I can't remember really. I think it was a Transient VCA, and this looks like shit.
Good. Now we have to take the second small PCB. And one thing you will notice is that on the small PCB and on the big PCB, on both lower sides is the transient logo sign, the small transient image. So these, where is it here?
Good question.
They have to align somehow.
Yeah,
it's on
the
here. It's on the front panel. There you see it. And there you have the transient, and there you have the transient. And this is the direction how it comes together in the end. So, but this comes in the next step now. First, we have to put all the audio jacks into place.
So with the audio jacks and potentiometers, if you have them on modules, there are also different kinds of adjust them. Sometimes I put them on
Different
without
ways
soldering,
to,
and put on the front panel. And
same
them.
thing here. Yeah, but I mean, you have to do it here anyway because of the LEDs.
But I think here you also find just to flip it around and make one point and.
Yeah, you can, but let's do it like he writes in the manual. I find it quite handy to insert the audio jacks and the LEDs now. The LEDs are all the same. It's bipolar LEDs. And they have also a polarity. The long leg is plus, the short leg is minus. And on the PCB silk screen print, there is a plus. So, and you only have to just throw them in, hang them in, and make sure that the orientation, the polarity is correct, because this is essential. And then in the next step, you can put the panel on, and there now these small transient signs have to align. They have to be over each other on the PCB and on the front panel. And then you can put on some of these nuts. You don't have to do them all, you can. But I took only 2 of them.
What tool do you use?
The perfect nut tool set.
Made by myself. Okay.
But it's available for everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Then, yes, you have to push the air. Maybe show it from the side, I mean.
And
then you have to push the LEDs through the holes in the panel. Ja, musst ein bisschen rein, Andi. yeah, like this. And if the whole thing is standing on the jacks now, like this, make sure the LEDs look through the holes, everything is correct, and then you can start soldering.
If you not should do it like we did with the resistor capacitor, just only
just do one leg first. Now, if you have a module with a lot of potentiometers or audio connectors, and if they are not absolutely in line and straight, you might have a problem to get the panel on the modulator. So that's the reason why you often put everything in place, then put the panel on top of it, flip it over, and then solder the whole thing, because then it definitely fits together later. And then after this procedure, you have to cut off all the legs. It has to be as short as possible, because otherwise you might get short circuits. Oftentimes I try, for the LEDs, you have one longer leg and one shorter. Long is plus, short is minus. When I cut them down finally, oftentimes what I do is I leave the long leg a little bit longer than the other one. So I try to keep the difference, because then if I have a mistake in the circuit,
you can
I
check them
still can
easily.
see the polarity from the backside, you know. But in this case, we have to cut it absolutely flat, because we need the space. Yeah, awesome.
Okay.
Good.
We can put the panel on right now, or do we have to remove it?
No, you
think-
can leave it on, I think.
Okay.
Now we have to put it together.
So
yeah, identify what is what.
the wedding.
Top and down. The power header is
down.
the lower side, where the transient image is on the front panel. So then you can put it together and solder it. So this might be a little bit tricky now.
So I will do it like this, I think. For me, it's also easy to solder them from this side.
This is a good example for maybe this kind of knete stuff again, if you like. Depends on what you want.
Yeah.
I was soldering it from this, I think, and it was quite handy for me.
Okay. Yeah, I can do it like that.
But you can also, you have two possibilities. You can solder it from here, or you can solder it from there, from this side.
Or both.
Or both, yeah. If you are really hardcore, you can do both.
Now everybody steals the knete from their children.
Yeah.
Play-Doh, I think they're named. So just do once and have a look if it's in a good position for our 2
it has
HP.
to be absolutely in this 90-degree angle.
So we don't have a 3 HP module. What looks fine.
Yeah. yeah, then we are almost finished. I mean, there is these calibration procedure, which we don't do now in the video, because we will guide you until the module works, and then it's very easy to do the calibration if necessary. But this would be a bit long now.
So, okay, that looks fine.
Yeah.
I also cut these other connector pins away.
Yeah, go over the whole thing, because the bottom of the big PCB is actually the side of the module, and if you have two of these small modules back to back in your case, then it might get difficult.
We get the double power.
And I would say, when everything looks fine, then we could check for short circuits in the power, right, with the multimeter.
Yeah, first I have to
What
put on
would you do?
the nuts.
Yeah, nuts is super good.
It's super important. Because this tool is so cool.
Yeah, many people, including ourselves, we had problems with these knurled nuts for the connectors, and you very quickly, if you use just the pliers or so to tighten them, you ruin your module with scratches on the front panel, etc. So we made this tool set with all the most common nuts in the Eurorack world. Thonkey-Con hex and knurled and big split nut and the Döpfer nuts. Good.
All right.
Then check the thing for short circuits.
So we use the multimeter.
Yeah, and there you have this beep function.
Like this. There's annoying beeps on every multimeter I used.
Yeah.
Beep.
If you put them together, it beeps, and there is a contact. So what you don't want in this case is a contact between ground and plus, ground and minus, or plus and minus. So the three middle pairs is ground, and on the lower side it's minus 12 volts later, and on the upper side it's plus 12 volts. So now you can check with this beep function between plus and ground, and between minus and ground, and between plus and minus. And if you would have a short circuit somewhere there in the
like ground of ground.
Yeah, ground, and ground is grounded. Okay, that seems to work. So better checking this than frying your module when you power it up and then magic smoke and
Yeah, if you have a better capability to check your models with multimeter and you're used to this, you can also use powered it up when you don't have any short circuit and measurement the outputs. I also had a problem once. I had 12 volts on output where it had to be a 5 volt. So I destroyed another module. So what a miss. But for the first, if you have no shortens on your power modules, you're fine to power it up, and any other measurements you can do it after them.
What's also very good, it's available as a DIY. Yeah, I will show it here. There. Your Analoge audio design. Very good module. test 3.
That's one of the most selling
Modules.
kits,
Yeah.
I think.
You can put it onto your bus. You can see what's going on your bus, and you can put modules into it and power your modules from that module, and then you see how much current they draw, etc. So, and if you have a problem like a short circuit in the DIY build, they take more current than necessary. Okay, I would say Andy comes around with the module. We put it here on the case, and we see magic smoke or not. I don't know. Do we see this in the picture, Ronnie? Do we see this cable on the picture?
Give me a second.
No, I can push it over a little bit.
Ich kann auch ein Stück rausholen, ganz einfach.
Oh, very
Okay.
good. Okay. Then, if
Let's-
you're really sure, all the orientations, everything is fine.
Red stripes down.
Here's the red stripe. Red stripe is minus 12 volts. Wish me luck.
What?
Then there's something going on. And if we take a signal now, we have this. Wait, let me see. Here. We took an LFO from the Leaf Audio VCO expander. And if we use this and put it into the input, we see randomly generated. So the input is switched to the outputs randomly. And it has two independent rows, 1 and 2. Trigger 2. It also works. What you also can do is you can normalize them here on the small PCB. Where is it? There. Can you see this? Up there. There are small SMT solder pads. And if you bridge them just by bumping a little bit of solder over it, then it should be bridged that one input is normalized to the second one, and then you have 4 random events going on in clock with the first input. So there it is. It's alive.
Yoo!
Let's hear this thing.
Very nice. And what we do now, I would say, is we end the official part. We have the private chat going on. We can also switch cameras on there. We can guide the participants to finish their modules if it's not finished now. But I think for the official part, for the live stream, it's good now. We say thank you. And if you like, join our newsletter. Then you get a note about the next workshop and if we have special offers and stuff. We will have a lot of stuff coming in now in April in the shop. New stuff is coming. We will open a completely new category. Yeah, will be a surprise. There will be a newsletter in early April, I think. Okay, and of course, keep our Instagram in mind. I think this is the most up-to-date channel for us, almost daily. All right. Ciao. Thanks to Bonedo. Thanks to Transient. Thanks to Andy. Thanks to Ronnie. Greetings to Hagen, who is at home at the moment.
Working like a crazy guy.
Yeah, I don't know. So, have a nice evening. Ciao.
Bye.
Sind wir raus?
Sound.